Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to discuss a few things. The intro that I play there is a Kansas song called Play the Game Tonight. My band were talking about doing it. And when I found the violin part that I needed to play was a little tricky, I was then like, oh yeah, we have to do it because I'll force myself to learn how to play it. And so I would play it on the bass 6, which I have here, which as you can see, I put the black pickguard on instead of I took the tortoise shell off. And I also put another shim in the neck, so I raised the angle here, and now there's no more buzzing. It sounds great. But getting to the point is I would play it on the bass 6 over and over, play it on the guitar over and over, just to get the muscle memory so I didn't have to think about it when I went to play it. It's a great technique that works, and I'm constantly doing that. And then it got me thinking about talking about something that I think that Jeff Berlin, I saw in an interview once, talked about, and it's about people who are self-taught. Now, generally, I'm self-taught. I have lessons, like my first 9 months. I took lessons in the 90s, like 5 lessons from a guy or 6 lessons from a guy. And then off and on, I would take from this person or that person. But generally, when it comes to all the theory and stuff, I had to do all that work on my own. Now, I don't wear that moniker of self-taught like a thing of pride. In fact, it's embarrassing because I think when people mostly say that they're self-taught, to me at least, there's a level of not understanding communicating in music and being... I don't look at it as a thing of pride, like when someone says, oh, this person never took a lesson. I'm like, yeah. Well. And of course they have friends like in family going, he's so talented. You're like, what? It's one of my pet peeves also is like, I do believe that there's like levels of raw talent, but I think that talent is also mixed with hard work, determination, and desire to play. So like, when you get to be my age or even younger, if you're in your 30s or even in your 20s and you've been playing 10 years, you've been playing hard and you've been working at it. And when someone says, oh, you're talented, to me it sounds like it takes away from what you've worked at, because it doesn't come that easy and it's not that simple. And yes, if you're 12 years old and you're playing giant steps like that kid that came out like last year or 2 years ago. Yeah, there's something there. I mean, how can you explain a 12-year-old being able to play on that level? But for most of us, it's a lot of hard work. That being said, the interview with Jeff Berlin was very interesting because he talked about how like people, when they start playing bass, because he's a bass player, how they just, they want to wing it and do what they want to do. And then it's like, but if they want to golf, if golfing's your hobby, you're going to go take lessons. The people get really into it. It was a very interesting take on it. And then he also brought something else up, which I can completely agree with. I mean, if you have 2 people that are surgeons, one guy's self-taught and the other guy went to school and all that, I mean, which guy, who's going to do your surgery? Obviously, the guy who has the schooling, because being self-taught, you don't know what you're supposed to teach yourself. I mean, eventually later, maybe when it's too late, and I see this happen a lot with guys my age, they'll come up to me and be like, can I take some lessons from you? And I'm like, absolutely. And, it's guys who haven't taken for years, and it's because they can see, like I said, if I see a guy in front of me that plays something that I want to know, I'm going to ask him. If he wants me to pay him, I'll pay him. I don't care. I want to know how he does. I want to know. I'm not too proud to take lessons. I think lessons are a great thing. And I think you should never stop because you never know everything and you can never know of all styles. Once you think you're a monster and playing metal stuff and all of a sudden you watch these country guys and you're like, that guy's doing that clean? Well, how do you do that? And then the country guys are seeing other guys rip and they're like, oh, what are you doing there? You know, so everyone can learn from everybody. But the thing about being self-taught and all that, what I wanted to bring up is, I think that, you know, like for me, it's not a thing of pride. It's like an embarrassment. When people ask me, I always hate to answer because I'm like, yeah, I kind of did it on my own. And they're like, they get impressed. And I'm just like, yeah, I kind of wish maybe along some way that someone pushed me into more, knowing more stuff. I mean, even if I don't even know. I mean, probably I say that now in hindsight, but as a kid, I was rebellious and didn't really care. I wanted to learn it, but I would learn it on my terms. But, you know, you don't know what you're supposed to learn. So, you know, I see a lot of guys who I'll mention Yngwie to. And I like Yngwie. You know, I know some guys that can rip and imitate Yngwie, and they play it great. And I love that style. And I think I love listening to it. I love Dolly Roth and all that. So when I hear it, I want to learn what they're doing. What's the technique? What are they doing? And I try to play it. Now, whether I take the ball with it and run and that becomes my thing, or it's just a tool in my toolbox, it's the understanding of what's going on. So I see a lot of people who are very dismissive of other players, and they'll be like, what do you think of Yngwie? I was never really into that. And okay, but you weren't like just taken by that style and picking technique to learn it? Back in the 80s, I was turned on to Steve Wariner album, It's a Crazy World. Fantastic. Loved everything about it. Loved the playing on it. Loved the singing on it. Loved the songs. I had no idea that Steve was the guitar player. I went to see him in like 95, 96 in Los Angeles, and I was like, how the hell's he doing some of this stuff? And so instantly, I'm back to work. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing, how he's doing it. And at the same time, a few years later, I'm playing in a metal band and I'm working on a whole other thing of techniques, but I'm constantly taking in and trying to learn and putting myself through different things, you know. To give you an example, I have a drum student. And he takes from this drum teacher that's supposed to be really great, and I'm sure he is, and lots of people who I think are good drummers swear by him. So when I get together with him, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to introduce to him, from the producer's point of view, what do I want to hear out of the drummer? And I want to hear groove. I want to hear that the beat is, that it moves, and that it's like a train. Not that it's like this. You know, and there's some drummers who, I don't want to say names, but that I've worked with or seen in the Los Angeles area where I was like, this guy gets a lot of love, and I'm not crazy about the way he plays. And in the same respect, there are some guys who get a ton of work, and they should, and it's obvious. I mean, obviously, like Jeff Porcaro from Toto played on like 700 records before he died, and he died in his 30s. Because he was fantastic. He had that groove. He wasn't a flash drummer. He says he didn't really like solos or anything like that, but he knew how to groove. So I show this drummer who's he just turned 13. In fact, if you want to look him up on YouTube, he's Drummer Boy 135. And here's a clip. I'm going to put up a clip. This is a clip of what we did yesterday, working on a song called Trouble Child by Journey, which is a very tough 6/8 time, but the snare falls on a push on the first half. And so I wanted him, I mean, you could look at it like 12/8, I guess, if you wanted to count it that way. I counted in 6, but that's fine. But there's a push in the front half, and it's square on the other, and then it kind of changes. But anyways, here's that clip. So you can see that he's constantly challenging himself. Here's a kid that's 13, loves Jeff Porcaro, Bernard Purdie, Steve Smith from Journey, Vinnie Colaiuta, loves all these drummers, and that's what's challenging in him. And so as a guitar player or a bass player, whatever brought you to this channel, when you're playing, it's real important, in my opinion, to try to attack stuff that you don't find comfortable or necessarily understand, but to try it. So in this Kansas song here, like I'm playing those notes, it's very awkward on the guitar how it falls and he does like a run, but it's a very interesting run. And so I was like, I got to learn it. I want to learn it for the song, and so I did. It's not easy. Sometimes I pick every note, and sometimes I use slurs. It just becomes it's not what I'm comfortable with playing at the time, but it's about challenging yourself. So I challenge you, go out and find stuff that you wouldn't necessarily, I don't care if you even like it. Well, I mean, all music to me, I don't know how you don't like certain things. Like people always say like, oh, I hate country. I don't really care for the pop country, but that's pop music to me. It's not even country. But I love some of the old country stuff. I love like the Steve Wariner stuff and the George Strait stuff. But even going back, I love all the George Jones stuff and the Waylon Jennings stuff. Stuff makes you want to lean up against a cactus and drink whiskey. How can you not like it? But seriously, it's all styles of music are relatively similar. Or like I had a friend out in Los Angeles, my friend Matt, who used to try to study flamenco. He was constantly, and Matt is a guy who was like, he was a fighter. He was into jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. I'm probably wrong on which fighting style he was into, but the point about Matt is that Matt was like, a thing I always admired about him is he has I could tell he's like a very structured mind. And I knew he likes flamenco because I believe he liked to want to learn the structure and the rigidness of the style, and it's also great for his technique for when he plays rock. He is a great player, and he's constantly challenging himself, and that's all I can say. It's like, so I always hate when I hear people sit and say, oh, that guy, never had a lesson, he's self-taught. It's like, what do I give a shit? What do I care? If you play me a record, like let's just say we're listening to Carry On My Wayward Son, and we're listening to the guitar solo, and it's the first time, and it's 1977 or 76, whenever the song came out. I think it might be 76. When it first came out, and someone said, that guy never took a lesson, you'd be like, oh, really? Really? Yeah, can you shut up while I listen to the song? What the hell are you talking for? But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it just becomes like, so what? Like, or the guys in Queen, those guys are all schooled. Yeah, well, they sound great. They sound excellent. Those guys never took it becomes like, well, who cares? It's most of these guys are writing lyrics. They never took a writing course. Who cares? If they're good, they're good. If it's good, it's good. Like I said, I'm not proud of the moniker. I just don't think that it's something to sit and tug your suspenders on when most of the people that carry that moniker are not very good. There's a guy around town here that I know who a friend of mine always says he tugs on his suspenders and says he's self-taught. And I'm like, what did he teach himself? He doesn't know anything. He's been playing the same pentatonic G minor scale forever. And I don't understand what I'm supposed to not understand that he was self-taught. It's completely understandable to me. He hasn't grown in 40 years I've known him. I exaggerated. I've known him 30 years. Like, a lot of people lately have been commenting on my Keith Richards video, which, I go back. When someone comments a lot, if I get like one or two, I'll go back and watch the video, and half the time I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, this guy's pretty, oh, that's me. That's right. But no, it's like, I'm like, it's pretty funny because I don't remember having that thought or say something that I don't remember that I had. But, it's a great thing to deal with there. So like, if you tune your guitar, I talked about open E. What's a fun tuning is open D, because it's very similar to Dadgad. You just take the G and knock it back down to F sharp. It puts you in a situation where if you're going to sit and write or try to figure out chords and work them out, you're now in a foreign environment and you're using more of your ears and whatnot. And that's really keen for writing and for becoming a better player in general. It's just like it's like another class. And as Jeff Berlin is saying, it's like, what do you know what to teach yourself? You would, in a school situation, they would say, well, you got to learn, if you're going to be a surgeon, you got to learn circulatory system, you got to learn muscles, you got to learn whatever it is, you got to learn it. And they want you to learn it in a certain order because one thing then falls to the next. A lot of people don't have the access to go get lessons and whatnot. So you have to then, if you want to remain self-taught, not that you want to, but let's say you remain self-taught, would then be to challenge yourself and figure out what is it that when you see someone play, or what is it you're weak at. It's funny, I see like a lot of players that talk about Eric Clapton, and some guy was like going off on me one time about it because I don't like Eric Clapton. I like Eric Clapton as an artist. I love those songs. I can't stand it. I love the whole August album's fantastic. Journeyman's a good album. I like those songs. In my acoustic AM station band, we do Promises. I love that stuff. What I don't love is when people tell me how great a guitar player he is, and I'm like, it's all right. It's kind of like, going on and on about, like, if someone said Elton John is like the most unbelievable piano player. I don't think you'd have a pianist in any music school turn around and go, oh yeah, he's the best. They're going to be like, he's what? Who? Yeah, he's all right. Somebody mentioned McCoy Tyner. I mean, if you're going to compare McCoy Tyner to Elton John, I would take McCoy Tyner all night long. I would take all these guys that play that heavy jazz, because most of them, like Chick Corea, who was classically trained and then went to jazz, could probably run circles on Elton John. But I'm not saying he's the best in the world either. I'm just saying it's just an absurdity because people are talking about their favorites and whatnot. But basically what I'm saying is, because I see a lot of people that like love Clapton because they can play like Clapton, and they're like, or Stevie Ray, and they try to do the Stevie Ray thing. And I never really understood that. I don't understand that whole aspect of wanting to put together, like, I mean, there's so many guys that just do the Stevie Ray thing. Although I will say there's a guitar player that plays around the Boston area. I've never been a huge fan of his playing, I have to admit. He's all right. Until I saw him get up and sing and play lead while he was singing and doing a song with another band. And I was like, well, why doesn't he do that? Like, that was hot. Like, the guitar playing was great. The singing was great. And I'm like, wow, he's actually a good player. I had no idea. Because I usually see him in a different context, and I never dug it. It just didn't fit him. It didn't fit his style. And he seemed like a fish out of water. And then when I heard him sing and play, I'm like, this guy should be in a trio, because I'd go see that band. That was a band that I would put, money behind and be like, hey, let's get, this guy should go out. He had a kind of a Stevie Ray type of voice, although I would say he was doing his own material, and I probably liked it better. I'm not a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, and that's fine. I think he's a phenomenal blues guitar player. I mean, I love Couldn't Stand the Weather. There's some stuff I love by him. I just don't hang my hat on blues, and so, I find a lot of the melodic stuff boring. Although I did find the singer for Living Colour, Corey Glover, to have a very similar singing voice to Stevie Ray Vaughan. Just a point of notice. Anyways, what I'm saying is, and this is longer than I thought it was going to be, and I apologize for that, but go out, seek out stuff that is not as easy for you to play. Seek out everything you can, and always try to better your playing. It's not going to hurt. I mean, I could go on and on about learning timing and whatnot. And, it's funny. I was watching, with the drummer student of mine, Cam, we were watching Journey live playing the song that he was working on. And they were a mess. And you can tell they were like either not rehearsed at it or nobody was counting. And a couple of times Neil Sean had to keep turning around, walking over to the band, looked like he wasn't comfortable with what they were playing. And, which is too bad because they're all great players. I don't know what was going on that night. Maybe they couldn't hear the drum. The count is on the hat. He keeps the 6/8 count on the hat. But, you want to be able to go out there and play, perform, and do it. And and have fun doing it. I hope you have fun watching these videos. And the bottom line is, whether you've been schooled or you're self-taught, try to challenge yourself to learn stuff that, you never fully you'll get it. We're always chasing, and I can tell you right now, I'm not even at the quarter spot. I'm not even forget about the halfway point of where I think I should be. I'm not even at the quarter. So, we all have a lot of work to do. And anyways, a giddy up. That's all I have for today. I'm off tonight, and then my brother's flying in town tomorrow with his daughter, so they'll be here, which I'm excited about. And I started my diet on Monday, and so tomorrow will be my cheat day. But yeah, I gotta get back into shape. I used to be in great shape, but used to be's don't count anymore. They just sit on the floor or you sweep them away. Sorry, that's a Neil Diamond reference with Barbara. That's all I got for today. Very good.
How's that for a topper?
You're right on target.
Right on the money. Everything you said.
You hit the nail right on the head with your comments, what you're saying today.
You're 150% correct.